Hello, I'm Martin White, and I'm here to tell you about the 𝗕𝘰ID agent for TechID Manager and the base and the link install. We're going to discuss why it is the way it is, how to install it, and then show you the technical details and where you can get the things that are necessary. First off, why? TechID Manager does unique accounts for technicians. You need to install an agent that has permission to make these accounts, rotate passwords, and set rights so that can happen. For 𝗕𝘰ID, this is implemented in a very specific manner so that we, as the vendor, do not have access to the secret information, the OAuth tokens, the global admin passwords, to your clients or to your MSP. This requires that something executes under your permission, your control in your MSP tenant. That is this piece in the middle. There is a base install for the 𝗕𝘰ID agent that goes in the MSP's tenant. This is a function app. There's a specific install for it. We'll cover that. This is the place that all the secret access information to your clients is stored, these four little gray scrolls here. That base install then reaches out to each of the linked installs for each of your clients. A linked install for client A, a linked install for client B, a linked install for client C, and a linked install for client D, and as many more as you have. This is very paramount to security. We don't keep any of this secret information that grants access to and allows modifications to your clients. None of the information that TechID Manager stores and can be stolen from TechID Manager grants any access into your or any of your clients' infrastructures. That is why it is done this way. Do the base install in your tenant, then link each place that you need accounts made. If you want accounts made in your own MSP tenant, you need to link the base install back to your own tenant. We'll show all of that. These are the instructions. We talk about at the beginning the same kind of thing. This does work on 𝗔𝗰𝗵𝗿 and 𝗔𝗰𝗵𝗁. The only thing to note is that the base install has to be of the same type as the tenants that are linked to it. So if you do a base install for 𝗔𝗰𝗵𝗁 or 𝗔𝗰𝗵𝗁, you can only talk to linked installs that are 𝗔𝗰𝗵𝗁 or 𝗔𝗰𝗵𝗁. If you do a base install for a commercial Azure tenant, which is what 99% of people use, 99% of the world is, you can only talk to commercial Azure tenants, which is what everybody uses. The base install is a PowerShell script that you run on your computer. You log in with a global administrator account into your MSP's tenant, answer some questions, and then it installs in your tenant. You do this once for the MSP's tenant. You get this by going to the releases page. Under TechID Manager, 𝗕𝘰ID, you will see that there is both a base install and a linked install download. The base install you download, it's a PowerShell script, run in PowerShell, does not need to be run as administrator. Log into your tenant, answer the questions that are there. They're pretty straightforward. If you have an existing legacy TechID Manager install, we'll discuss that at the end of this video. Right now we're talking about new installs. A linked install. You do this linked install for each client that you want to make accounts in. This includes the MSP tenant. If you want the MSP tenant to make accounts, you have to link the MSP tenant, your own tenant, back to where the base install is, even though that's where the base install is. Download the link install. It is an executable. You can run in PowerShell or command, or you can double click on it. You run the executable, TechID Manager 𝗕𝘰ID installer. It will ask you some questions. It will first off ask you to log into the Azure tenant that you want to link with a global administrator account. You log into this tenant. It's going to ask you some questions about if it's 𝗔𝗰𝗵𝗁 or if it what to look for. It's going to ask you for the domain name, the friendly name, all those things that you should recognize from the white glove install of TechID Manager. If you've not done a white glove install for TechID Manager, schedule one or schedule some assistance time or email support at TechID Manager, and we will schedule a white glove install and help you work through all of that and answer all these questions. Their options, the RMM name, the friendly name, the username, the displayed name, all of that should be recognizable from the installs of the domain service on domain or from the white glove install. All right. When you have installed the base in your tenant, if you scroll down, you'll see here under client options, there is a base call URL, and the Azure base agent will then have this information filled in. If you've not done the base install correctly or something went wrong, it will say no base agent installed here. If that happens, contact support at TechIDManager.com and we will help you fix it. Once you have installed the linked agents, they will show up in your tenant like this as Azure with the 5.525 or newer version, same version as the base, because that's the version they all run as. That's where the execution happens. If you click the gear icon or look at the details of this agent, these agent options are now where you can change any of the things about this agent install. Because it is a linked install, different from previous versions, this is where you set those options. If you want to change username formatting, if you want to change the friendly name or any of that, this is where you will change that. And when you change it, remember to click save. And then it will update those options and you'll be good to go. All right. That is the basics of the install. It is really that simple. Download the base installer, install it, then run the linked installer for each tenant that you want to link to. Remember, the overview looks kind of like this. You're doing the base install in your MSP tenant. That's where all the secret information is stored. That's where the execution is. You need a subscription to actually make that happen. And then each client is a linked install. All right, that's the new install. If you have an existing TechIDManager installation and you're upgrading from the legacy install, which had a function similar to this executed in each client tenant, but now you'd like to move those to one function that executes in the MSP tenant, and then individual linked calls or links to the clients, there's a little bit of trickiness. When you install the script that is the base install, it is going to ask you if you want to look for existing installations. And when it finds one, it's going to say, would you like to upgrade this? And you say yes. And you say, would you like to make this a base install? And you say yes. This will convert your existing legacy MSP tenant install to a base install. This means it will no longer be an agent. You will need to link that back to your original, to the base install you just did. And when you run the linker, the link installer, it will check for existing installations and it says, would you like to convert it to a secondary, or is this the base that's been upgraded? Say yes, and it will convert and upgrade it. All right. If you have any questions about that, support at TechIDManager.com. Now, for all of the client installations, after you have the base and your MSPs set up and working, the client ones, they currently have a resource group in each of these client tenants that does all of that execution. Leave that resource group in place until you have run the linked installation. The linked installation will ask, would you like to look for existing installations? You say yes. It will find that resource group. It will say, would you like to upgrade this to a linked installation? You say yes. It will take all of those options out of that resource group, push them into your MSP tenant, take all that secret information and put it in your MSP tenant and convert it. Once that linker runs successfully and that installation has been converted from legacy to a linked installation, that resource group is no longer needed and can be deleted. If you delete it before you run the linked installer, you'll run into some problems. They're easy enough to fix. Contact us at support@techidmanager.com and we'll walk you through fixing those. All right, that's the basics of it. You run the base installer once and the linked installer over and over and over for each of your tenants. Once all of those are converted, the resource group and the subscription is only needed in the MSP tenant. It is no longer needed in any of the client tenants. All right? I've said this probably 15 times, a baker's dozen or more times in this thing. But if you have any questions, support at TechIDManager.com. We are here. We're very willing to help. All right? And go back here. These are where the instructions are. And there'll be this video right there. Have a great day.